All right, nearly 90% of children raised in Christian homes spend more than 30 hours a week in public schools, typically run by those who do not embrace a biblical worldview. In fact, in many cases, they are hostile to a biblical worldview. Now, the goal of many parents is to keep children in a secular educational environment for 12 years until they are deemed academically ready to go to an institution of higher learning where hostility to Christian faith can be even more intense. So today we've been discussing children. We're talking about faith plus family equals freedom. And we must stop, as I said at the beginning of the program, when Jesus talked about render what is Caesar's to Caesar and what is God's to God's, the inscription of the coin was Caesar's. The temporal things of this world, yes, we render those things, but our children bear the image of Christ, of God. We're not to surrender them to government. In fact, speaking of the Pray Vote Stand Summit 2 years ago, we were at Cornerstone Church in Leesburg, Virginia, with my friend Gary Hamrick, and he made this comment about education not too long ago. Play clip 6.
20, 25, 30 years ago, the idea of a Christian school was something we thought was nice. But it's no longer time for niceties. It's a time of necessity.
Well, and Cornerstone there in Leesburg has actually started. They're starting their own Christian school. And I want to talk about that, how churches need to be in the ministry of education. And joining me now to discuss this is Herzog Foundation President Darrell Jones. He has the vision, he carries the vision of the Herzog Foundation, which is families and culture to flourish through quality Christian education. Darrell, welcome to Washington Watch. Good to see you again.
Well, thank you so much, Tony. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So we see the sad state of public education today, where kids are not taught the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic, but instead taught, proper pronoun usage. I mean, this is insanity. We're falling further and further behind. We're seeing this in the test scores. Of course, I don't know how many years they're going to blame everything on COVID, but they're continuing to blame this on COVID, but it runs much deeper. How did we get here?
It does run much deeper. I mean, evil flourishes in an environment of chaos, right? From the very beginning, you go back to the Garden of Eden and you find God's authority in general, being questioned. Well, now, did God really say? Well, now, is this really what God said? And that battle, that hellacious battle, continues to be the template for what is the world culture today, certainly in the West, where confusion is really the authority, which means there are no absolutes, and you can choose whatever it is that you choose, and for you, it's right. And so if it's suicide for you, it's right. If it's abortion for you, it's right. We're not sure what a woman is in American culture. It's what you make those decisions. There are no absolutes. And with that being the foundation of what is becoming certainly Western culture, it means there's a real need for parents and for churches to step into the arena of Christian education in a bold, transformative kind of way.
I was just thinking it's probably a good thing for the educational establishment that I'm not a student today, because I always question things. And I was thinking of algebra, and I was always asking, why does this equal this? It just doesn't look that way. And so, today, my response to them when they would tell me, well, it's just the way it is, I would say, how is it that a boy can be a girl and a girl can be a boy? I mean,
right.
Again, there are absolutes, but we've rejected those. So the soil of public education has become this toxic brew, as you said, of chaos. And then we wonder why our kids are the culture is turning out the way it is. So let's talk about solutions. Let's talk about what churches, and I want to focus this primarily on churches. And of course, if you're in a church, you have a voice in that church. If you're a pastor, you're leading that church. But let's talk about solutions and what the church can do today.
Well, Tony, I pastored for 35 years, actually, full-time vocational ministry, and only stepped out 2.5 years ago to take on this role with the Herzog Foundation at their generous invitation to do that. Never saw myself outside of pastoral ministry, but I have seen the transformation, the change in American culture, slowly but surely, until such a time where there are very bold and distinct cultural value foundational lines that are different certainly in our culture today. I was a youth minister for 11 years full time and worked with teenagers every single day. Then for 20 plus years was the senior pastor, and can tell you, if in 2023 I were serious as a minister about student ministry, whether it's children's ministry or youth ministry, I just don't see how you get around this significance and the importance of churches embracing Christian education that is around them, whether it's embracing the homeschool families that are in their church that are opting to educate their own children, or whether it's embracing the Christian school down the street, or, to follow really my hero, Gary Hamrick, in saying, you know what, we're going to launch a Christian school out of our church. We've had a children's ministry, robust. We've had a youth ministry and a senior adult ministry. We're going to establish an education ministry out of our church for the purpose of making disciples in a bold way and giving our families affordable options right here through our facility.
I believe if we want a future, both as a country and the church, in terms of a vibrant future, we have to do just that. I mean, George Barna, who's a senior fellow here at the Family Research Council, we talk a lot about worldview, and a worldview is formulated from 15 months to 13 years. This is the prime time of education. And if we're simply outsourcing that to an entity that is hostile to truth, to transcendent truth, why are we surprised with the outcome? So let's talk about what the Herzog Foundation does to assist churches and others that want to start these Christian schools. That's why you're there. How can they find help and partnership with you?
Yeah, we would love that. HerzogFoundation.com, not org.com, HerzogFoundation.com. We are a not-for-profit organization established at the benevolence of Mr. Stanley Herzog when he passed, left amazing resources to advance K through 12 Christ-centered education across the United States. And so among trainings that we provide for current administrators and home group leaders, homeschool educators, as well as The Lion, our publication where on a daily basis we're writing between 10 and 15 articles highlighting the best in Christian education, but also acknowledging and calling out the realities of what's going on in what Stan Herzog would call the government schools across the country. But the most recent initiative that we've rolled out, honestly, just 2 months ago, we officially rolled it out up in Leesburg. We had a pilot program, is what we call Schoolbox. HF Herzog Foundation, hfschoolbox.com. You can find this online resource to help churches and cul-de-sacs of families have a roadmap for how do we start a Christian school. It's one thing to have the passion, but what's the roadmap and the blueprint to get there? So, in 20 years ago, I like the way Gary said it, Pastor Gary, 25 years ago, it's like every Christian school looked the same. But in 2023, there are 5-day-a-week traditional schools. There are 5-day-a-week classical Christian schools. There are certainly homeschool co-ops, but there are these micro schools. Arizona is absolutely exploding with one-room schoolhouses where there are literally a dozen students in a church building of varying ages using a curriculum with one teacher. And I'm telling you, their test scores are going through the roof. It's good quality education based on the foundation of the faith of the church and the faith of the families. Faith is not the target of the system. But there are also a number of hybrid schools that maybe 2 or 3 days a week there at the church where you're meeting with a certified state teacher But the balance of the week then is with homeschool, where parents or guardians are investing in the education of their children. Our Schoolbox initiative, hfschoolbox.com, was created to help passionate parents and churches have the tools and the resources to launch the kind of school that God has placed on their heart. And we believe that the secret sauce to Schoolbox is once, Tony, if you and I were going to create a Christian school in my state of Missouri or your home state of Louisiana, Schoolbox was created to be state specific according to the laws of the state. But then what we'll do is once you and I tell Schoolbox that we want a 3-day-a-week hybrid classical school in a church, then the Herzog Foundation, through our nationwide network of educators, will find an educator that is running that kind of school right now, and the Herzog Foundation will pay that head of school to coach you and I and our launch team on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, through the steps of Schoolbox, so that we actually have someone riding shotgun with our launch team in the car to help us progress through the process for an effective and successful school launch. So we're very excited about that latest initiative, Schoolbox. And again, you can find out about that and more at herzogfoundation.com.
Wow, that is exciting, because this is it's like a smorgasbord. It's more like a lunchbox. You can pick what you want there, and as you feel you believe what might fit you best. So it's not a one size fits all. And then the intimidation of often starting a project like this is what keeps you from really launching it. But you're saying here, that's why we're here. We will walk with you through this process.
That is absolutely our mission. We rolled out Schoolbox officially 2 months ago, and it's exciting. We have nearly 70 schools right now with mentors walking through Schoolbox, preparing to launch Christian schools this fall in just a couple of months in 2023.
So let's put that you pastored, as you said, for 35 years. I've been a pastor, and I know pastors they know the urgency, but they also have the daily issues that are just staring them in the face, and they know they want to do something. But let's put this on the bottom shelf. Let's just give 3 practical steps that the pastor who senses the burden, and it may very well be from the Holy Spirit, what 3 steps can they do to get this moving?
That's fantastic. I would say to start, it's prayer. Lord, what is it that you want me to do? When you see the lines of American culture being so boldly drawn, it's not the first time in world history that people of God have been living in Babylon. It's not the first time. This is not the worst time in world history to be a follower of Christ. But the reality is, it does take leaders who are willing to step out and create those environments where learning, where the transfer of faith from generation to generation can take place. And within the decline of the American church, it is essential that churches begin to rise up and the pastors begin to lead again in a way to transfer faith, to infiltrate certainly Western culture and our neighborhoods, and to be salt and light as Jesus commanded. I think the starting place is to pray, Lord, where do I go? Do I simply embrace those education options that are already existent in my neighborhood, be it homeschool families, be it homeschool cooperatives? Maybe you open up your church to become a place where homeschool co-ops can educate children there in a safe environment. Maybe it's embracing and partnering more with the local Christian school that's in your area, that aligns with your faith tradition. Or perhaps it's, there's nothing here that's affordable or available to our families, and we're going to provide an option. So I think once you begin to pray and identify what is it that God would have you do, then some of the options that we would provide would be obviously Schoolbox, where we'll help you identify what are all of the options in Christian education today that are available. And I would say dive into that. Look at herzogfoundation.com, see all of our resources, but specifically and pertinent to this conversation, hfschoolbox, all one word, .com, and begin seeing the different options that are available to launch a Christian school out of your church, just like Pastor Gary's doing. And then as you begin to research that and pull together a group of people that are like-minded, I mean, certainly as a pastor, a part of the key is, we equip the saints to do the work of ministry.
That's key.
It's ultimately the Holy Spirit that equips them and gifts them, but we have a responsibility to paint the vision and to cast the vision and to organize the right people around us then to begin to carry that vision.
Darrell, we're going to have to leave it there. We're up against the end of the program, but we're going to encourage people to visit that site. Thanks for joining us today.